He said he missed her. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. He said he had missed her. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Be down with us. 804-402-2893 to be down with the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. At this time, I want to go ahead and introduce calling in on the live line to be a part of the next segment. I got my brother, my partner, and my friend, host of The Green Room, version 2.0 with Jay Grizzy and Lissa P. I got my brother Jay Grizzy on the live line. What's up, bro? Gave him a nice introduction, and then I say, what's up, bruh? And he don't check in. Jay Grizzy, you still there, my man? Obviously, he can't hear me.
Oh, that's my bad. My bad.
He said, my bad.
I gave you a nice little introduction, and everything said nice stuff about you, and you wasn't there ready. So I'm going to try it one more time. I'm going to try it one more time. I'm going to try it one more time. I got calling in on the live line, the host of The Green Room version 2.0 with Jay Grizzy and the First Lady Lissa P every single Wednesday at 7 to 9 on Legacy Internet Radio. I got my brother Jay Grizzy on the line. What's up, brother?
Oh, yo, what's going on, fam? You too kind. What's going on, family?
Nothing, man. You got the dating pool diva in the room. Say peace to her.
Hey, what's up, dating pool diva, Arthur Charisma in the building?
Hey, how you doing?
I was supposed to be having a fantasy draft, but we got some Ferguson Keystone cops running the draft, so I had to piece up out that joint.
Well, we don't want you. Hey, look, we don't want you to take 2 or 6 to the chest without no gun in your hand. So I'm glad you got to move.
You don't know these days, bro.
Yeah, you never know. Well, that's what we're talking about. And as I don't know if you had an opportunity to listen to that first segment, but we're talking about what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri. We're gonna keep it moving. We had other things that we're going to get to that are still somewhat connected. And so as you and me and the diva here right now, you think you can handle it?
Definitely.
All right. Well, I want your opinion on this one first, Grizz. Just kind of get you, ready to get a little bit feisty. I'm getting this one from Newsday.com, New York City newspaper. It's about a CNN anchor, Rosemary Church. She's coming under fire, and she's getting a lot of backlash for the suggestion that police use water cannons on protesters in Ferguson, Missouri. She wondered why the police are using a strategy that involves the use of tear gas and stun grenades. Quote, why not perhaps use water cannons? At least it's not going to have the same sort of effect. And then she continued to tweet about the incident to her 31,000 followers. Tear gas and stun grenades were earlier fired by police in response to Molotov cocktails, she ended up tweeting. Are you just going to never say you're sorry? One person is asking her. I'm wondering if she has any kind of knowledge of civil rights history to suggest water cannons is kind of what I'm thinking, Grizz. When you hear this, what do you think, man?
She think it's 1964 again. Like, it's crazy. Like, I've been following this thing on social media, and I don't do social media as far as I don't sit there and partake in a lot of these debates. I just sit there and I'm kind of voyeuristic with it. And I'm gonna tell you, if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of people that are trying to give us that backlash against the protection of the Mike Brown situation in Ferguson. And for this reporter, her name Rosemary, right?
Rosemary Church.
Yeah, Miss Rosemary. This ain't 1964 no more. No, I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious to any human being. Let's be clear about this. We were protesting, or people were protesting what they felt was an unjust murder of a young kid. Now, we could put race into it, we could put all this other thing into it, but for the fact that people think that if I was to organize a march right now in Richmond, Virginia, with 600 people walking down Broad Street, and we were met with tear gas and water cannons like this reporter is suggesting, like what country are we living in that people can't protest? I thought that was in the Bill of Rights. The freedom to assembly.
I can dig it.
Am I lying?
No. I can dig it. The only thing that I will say is that some of the protesters got a little bit out of control. But when I was looking at some of the video, I saw that a lot of the protesters that were getting out of control let's just say they didn't look like the people from Ferguson. There were a lot of white folk out there acting crazy. There was a lot of black folk out there acting crazy. I'm not going to put it on one side versus the other, but the fact that the military came in there and they had tanks and all that kind of stuff, I found it very curious that they were able to get it there so quickly. Diva, let me get you to jump in here.
I mean, I agree with Jay Grizzly. I feel like that's way too extreme for mostly protesters that are being peaceful, that are not causing any trouble. Now, if there are certain individuals that are breaking out with fights or whatever, then deal with them individually. But to go to the extreme of water hosing the whole crowd, I mean, because they're having a peaceful demonstration is kind of too far.
What you think, Riz?
I mean, I could think back 22 years ago in the 92 riots in L.A. and didn't see what was happening in L.A. happen in the Ferguson, Missouri. If my memory serves me correct, yeah, they burnt in their own neighborhood. But when the cops, even the National Guard, the first Bush called out the National Guard out there to restore order. And I'm sure there were incidences in that situation where the police, everybody knows LAPD's history with the community, but I don't recollect seeing that venom and that type of police presence and the militarizing the police. Like, yo, it's real out here. It's real out here, and people don't know. I mean, we had this discussion last week on a break from my show. Like, we really got to think about certain things that we normally wouldn't think about, and protecting ourselves and our families that, people shouldn't be taken like that. But hey, they make the rules. We just gonna go along with them.
Jay, can I ask you a question? It's the same question I asked Marcus J. earlier. Do you think that the black community is powerless?
No, I don't think it's powerless. I think there is a vacuum of leadership, and Mark probably spoke about this on the air. But since that '60s civil rights movement, I was watching a documentary last night, as a matter of fact, about how black folks, they had that upward mobility to where we started after civil rights and affirmative action and the passing of the civil rights bill. We started getting into the middle class. We started leaving, we started spreading our dollar around other communities. And there was a stat on this documentary that said back prior to civil rights, where we had our own integration, the black dollar circulated 26 times within the black community before it left. So I make that point to say that at times when people need to rally as a community amongst each other, the word is they have to rally, as opposed to, you get Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, and I'm not besmirching, them as black leaders, but I mean, we only see them in the media wise when something go down. I'm sure they do, I don't know about Jesse anymore, but I'm sure they do other, groundwork to kind of help the community in regards to that. But there needs to be more. I mean, Legacy Internet Radio Station is one example of independence is the key to building our legacy. And so we wanted to go up amongst ourselves and say, we can do this for ourselves. Hopefully that'll be an example to somebody who want to do comedy, want to do radio, want to be an author or something like that, to somebody that look like us and say, oh, I could do that too. If y'all could do it, I could do that too. And that's setting an example. And that vacuum of leadership is not there, and it's too loosely based. It's just not the same.
I can dig it. Ain't no how stepping with Marcus J. That's Jay Grizzy, the Green Room version 2.0 with Jay Grizzy and the First Lady Lissa P. Heard every Wednesday from 7 to 9 right here on Legacy Internet Radio. Grizz, Diva, I want to go ahead and kind of take a little bit of a turn, because what I'd like to do now is kind of highlight the differences in what happens to officers when certain things happen. And how I'm going to lead off this particular portion of this segment is about something that went on with Don Lemon. Don Lemon is a CNN reporter. He is a gay black man. And CNN devoted significant, I'm getting this from news1.com, by the way. CNN devoted significant time recently to profiling a St. Louis police officer who shoved their host, Don Lemon, on camera. It appears that after the incident with Lemon, someone did some digging into the officer's past and uncovered video of an hour-long speech he delivered, one in which managed to rail against blacks, the LGBT community, President Obama, and domestic violence victims. The officer, Dan Page, has since been relieved of his duty. Quote, "It's wide-ranging, inflammatory remarks about a lot of people, about women, about gay people," Lemon reported. He talks about the President of the United States, and he speaks about affirmative action, women in the military, and on and on and on. So, Diva, I'm going to have you get in on this one first and give me your thoughts. Basically, the short version, you've got a police officer who shoved Don Lemon. I guess he didn't like the reporter in his face. But when they did some homework, they found that he said some pretty nasty stuff about blacks, gays, domestic violence victims, and so on. Says a lot of stuff, and you hear me focusing on the word says, and I'll explain why I'm doing that in a minute. But what's your thoughts when you hear that?
Okay, so let me clear this up. You're not talking about Don Lemon, but the guy.
The guy that pushed Don Lemon, yes. It's an officer, a St. Louis officer who, and his name is Dan Page.
Okay.
Dan Page shoved Don Lemon when Don Lemon was out in Ferguson and basically doing his job as a journalist. And the officer shoved him and was pretty aggressive with him. This video of it, unfortunately, I don't have it right now. I have since seen it. Take my word for it. He wasn't happy that Don Lemon was in his face trying to, or in his space, I should say, trying to report on the happenings there in the Ferguson, St. Louis area. And it was bad enough that he got caught on video pushing a reporter. But when someone did some homework, they found that he had done a video, and he's doing a speech, and you can see I've got a still photo of him at a podium, the officer in question, and he had given an hour-long speech where he is saying some pretty nasty stuff about blacks, gays, the president, domestic violence victims. So this guy here with the glasses, that's Don Lemon. That's the reporter, the CNN reporter. He's a black gay man, and I say that not because I care that he's a black gay man, but I say that
it may be relevant
because it may be relevant to whatever comment that you and Grizzy may have. I'm gonna get you first. I'm gonna have Grizzy comment after you. What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, basically, from what I can see, it could be racially motivated. Based on his history of hating, gays and blacks and anybody that's different.
Right. Different from what?
Different from him.
Okay.
As, I guess, a straight white male, white bread American is probably how he views himself, and anybody outside of that is, trash.
Right.
So he was pushing and beating on him as if he was trash.
Grizz, I know you're still there and you're listening. What's your thoughts, man?
I mean, first of all, that cop had to know that the police cameras are on. Then he had to know Don Lemon is a representative of CNN. Forget the fact that Don Lemon's gay. He saw Don Lemon's face. It looked like a bunch of faces he don't like, obvious by his comments that came out subsequently or prior to. And so, I mean, it befuddles. Well, it doesn't befuddle me, but I can't get into my mind frame how this community and a lot of communities around the country who allow policemen to police communities that they don't even live in, that they don't even participate in, that their kids don't go to school in. I don't know if Richmond has it. I know it was a big brouhaha 10, 15 years ago, to where if you actually were a Richmond City police officer, you had to live in the city of Richmond. I know the city government had a big debate about that, like I said, about 10 or 15 years ago. And Ferguson, this whole Ferguson, Mike Brown assassination, murder, brings me to the point that Ferguson is 65% black, or is a black suburb, but 85%. I think I got 3 cops, so that's like 90%. 3 cops.
It's like 50. It's like 50. Yeah, it's like 50 something cops. Yeah, it's like 50 something cops, or it's like 50 something cops, and 3 of them are black.
Right, exactly. So to your point about why he's pushing Don Lemon, first of all, 9 times out of 10, this is totally not excusable by the policeman. We all know what a policeman or that particular cop's point of view is, because he said he didn't put that out there in the world. But if I live in a county using Central Virginia, if I live in Colonial Heights, but I police Jackson Ward, and the only time I deal with Jackson Ward is when I go to work every day. And I'm already not even predisposed, but I already have these views. It's pretty much ignorance, you know. So exactly, he did exactly what he felt like he wanted to do, like he thought he had the right to do. And plus, he had the badge in front of him, which gives police, some police, I'm not saying all, but it gives some police a sense of, yeah, because I have this badge, I can pretty much, you know, break or kill or any civil rights that you have, whether you're innocent or guilty. And so for me, that is, I just like to throw that out there. Like a lot of cops that police these communities don't even live in the community. Don't even live, don't even participate.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. To be a part of the discussion, hit us up in social media on the Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J fan page or Legacy Internet Radio fan page, or call us up at 804-402-2893 to be a part of the discussion. Now, the next thing I want to bring up, and notice I didn't comment on this one, and you'll understand why here in a minute. I'm getting this one from urbanintellectuals.com. This cop is fired. Well, I'll read the story. I won't tell you why this cop gets fired, but according to sources, a cop from hometown Illinois was fired for shooting and killing a family dog. The incident happened in July of 2014, just a few weeks before Mike Brown was shot and killed in Ferguson, Missouri, despite being unarmed. ABC 7 reported Apollo, a 14-month-old German Shepherd pit bull mix, was shot and killed by the officer without any remorse whatsoever. The story goes on to say that on Friday, Apollo was shot and killed by the officer in the front yard of the dog's home, and the homeowner says that her daughter, Alexis, saw it all. Quote, "My quick reaction was to grab her and run inside because she fell to the floor and started screaming." This is what Nicole Eschalina said. This is the mom. Eschalina says Apollo had run out the front door. Hometown police had been alerted and encountered the dog as he returned to the front yard. Eschalina says she tried coaxing Apollo back in the house, but he turned and bared his teeth at one of the officers. According to police, that's when the officer withdrew his weapon and fired one shot, striking the dog. Ashlyn says she questioned the use of deadly force, especially in front of her daughter, but she says the officer showed no remorse. He just said it had to be done. He walked up to me and told me that and walked away, is what Ashlyn says. Now, I'm really, really disappointed here because the legal system says that Darren Wilson, the officer involved in shooting Mike Brown, he's on a paid administrative leave in witness protection and sucking up taxpayer dollars. Whereas this particular officer, Diva, is been fired. He's fired for shooting a dog. To that, you say what?
Well,
hold up, Grizz. I got the Diva first. What you got?
I say that the value of a black boy's life is not as high as a dog. Now, I love animals. I love pets. And, you know, that would hurt my heart if my dog was killed by an officer as well. But if my brother or however he's, you know, related to me was murdered, that would mean a lot more. But that just shows you the justice system doesn't really, you know, value black boys' lives. It's like less than a dog.
Grizz?
One thing that when you was reading that story and the whole conversation, the image that comes up to me is the icon for justice. The icon for justice is Lady Liberty blindfolded holding up two scales. And the blindfold means that justice is not supposed to see. It's supposed to be dealing with just the fact. Man, if we use just the timeline that we as black folk been here in America, from the American South, things of that nature, we all know that Lady Liberty doesn't wear those blindfolds. She has that blindfold way up, and she likes to point and look at us a certain way, and when those scales of justice, they always get tilted. Even to the fact that if it's a canine, i.e. using Michael Vick for an example, they threw Michael Vick in jail for fighting dog, and they're going to fire this police for shooting dog. But black men every day get taken down by cops, and it's not. It doesn't get same justice, and that's all people are demanding for. I don't like to say ask when it comes to these situations, because what we're demanding is justice, and if we don't get some justice, it's going to be. I mean, I don't want to be insightful. I just don't like seeing this happen. It's just in 2014. It's just real.
Yeah, it's real. I ain't know how Stat with Marcus JB down with us at 804-402-2893 is the number to dial to be part of the discussion. Thank you to those folks listening to us on TuneIn, and special thanks to the folks that are listening to the replays on YouTube. Now, the reason why I read those two stories and didn't make a comment and reserve my comment until after they were read is because you've got two stories of officers being fired. They're being fired for things that, depending on your perspective, are worth being fired for. If you are a police officer and you not only do you shove a civilian unnecessarily, police brutality, and you got a history of saying some pretty nasty stuff, you probably shouldn't be on the street. So, yeah, I guess I kind of understand letting him go. I could even live with him being taken off of the street and being given a permanent administration job. But, hey, they fired him, so be it. Then you got an officer who uses excessive force by shooting and killing a dog on the family's property and showing no remorse in the process of actually doing it. If I'm an officer and the dog is running up on me, hey, I'm not sure that I blame that officer. It's a dog, and the dog is baring teeth, and he's trying to bite me. I'm not sure that I'm showing no.
Shoot him, though?
I'm not sure that I'm gonna be against the officer on that. Now, do I think that it should have been done? Hey, it's one of those things. I don't know. I don't know. I can see that perspective. Him being an ass about it and not showing no remorse, that's kind of cold-blooded. But, I've been chased by dogs in the past. It ain't no fun. So, it ain't no fun. But I brought that up to say that you got two instances where you got an officer who said some nasty shit and shoved somebody, got fired. An officer that shot a dog and got fired. Whereas you got an officer who shot a boy, a young black man who is raised $400,000 from people who are supporting him, and now he is in witness protection, getting money, tax dollars, and all of that kind of stuff. And I've had people tell me, particularly when the Trayvon Martin and Jordan Davis and those cases and things were going on down there in Florida with Stand Your Ground and all that kind of stuff. And you have people saying, well, you can't mix cases. You don't know the situation and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, yo, look, we know that police officers have generally the same training. They may go through it in different places, but for the most part, you got the same training. And when I say you absolutely can mix cases, when you can see that, mano a mano, George Zimmerman versus Trayvon Martin, one dude had a gun, another dude didn't have a gun. If it came down to it, them two dudes just scrapping in the street and see which man comes out alive, then so be it. Versus a woman like, Marissa Alexander, who had a dude that was coming to get her, basically already told her, I'm going to kill you. And she shot in the ceiling, didn't hurt nobody, and she's facing before she had a new trial, she was facing 20 years. She'd been convicted. She was getting 20 years. Now that they trying to recharge and all that, she's facing 60 freaking years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Come on, 60 man. Years. 60 years, man. 6-0. And so, I got a lot of white brothers and sisters who I love and I respect. But I love them and respect them enough to know that if you see some bullshit that's wrong, I'm going to need you to point it out. Because I'm going to point it out if it's wrong in your favor. I'm going to need you to point it out if it's wrong in mine. And this is one of them situations where this shit ain't right, Grizz. Come on, man.
Well, of course it's not right. But I look at it from a historical point of view and from a macro manage, not from a minor point of view. But the reason why I believe that the justice system and a lot of institutionalized systems in America are the way they are is because of fear. If an alien right now was to walk up into my driveway, I'm not, being that the human race has been here ever since God created, created the heavens and the earth. But if an alien walked into my driveway right now, my first instinct, because I don't know, I ain't sat down with him, I ain't had a conversation with him, I don't know how he wash his ass, I don't know nothing about this alien, is I'm going to pull back, and I'm going to be like, what you doing here? You know, and I think because of that fear is why, even after all of these years, is why a lot of folks in the institutions have these points of views. They don't allow themselves to see, open their mind. They ignorant, and you can't legislate ignorance. You
Right.
can't get away from ignorance. To use Big Rube's saying, and I like to borrow it from him, is that they got to go. When I say they got to go, I forgot it, Mark. What
Natural selection. Natural selection.
Natural selection. Like, you got to do better. You got to teach your kids better. Because honestly, those cops and the way they gave the demographics in Ferguson, Missouri, was, this used to be an all-white, hard-working, middle-class white suburb. So let's just say that was that white suburb pre-integration, right?
No, I got you.
The kids of those families that did that white flight out of that suburb are the ones who is policing that neighborhood. So how, because a kid doesn't grow up noticing that somebody's black or white, or this racism is a learned behavior. So how does how does one or two or three or how many cops that have that attitude, where did they get it from?
No, I can dig it. Ain't no. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, they get it from somebody in their community that said this is the way America is supposed to be, and America is growing. And in a couple of years, in a couple of decades, the Caucasian, the white folks in America are going to be struggling to be the majority.
Right. Well, we already know they were.
Lord forbid what.
Well,
no, go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just going to say, we know that there's studies that said that that's going to be happening real soon. So, at the end of the day, though, it doesn't really matter how many actual people you have. It's more about, the money. It's more about the money and the power and that sort of thing. And I can't think of the family, but the family that owns Walmart, the Waltons, I think they're the Waltons.
Yeah, the Waltons.
It's like, that family's like 10 of them, and they own like, maybe like 50 or 70% of the money in our country. It's some kind of crazy. Now I may be way off. I probably shouldn't even say that if I don't know the specifics. But the point
1%.
The point is they got a whole lot of freaking money, and we got plenty of resources in this country. We got plenty of food. We got plenty of shelter. We got plenty of everything. The problem is you got too many people who are holding on to shit, and you got a lot of people who don't have access. And we know that we live in a world where socialism, or a country, I should say, where socialism is not something that is smiled upon, where it's about free enterprise, it's about get what you can get, and it's about if I can do it then you can do it, and all of that kind of stuff. But we also live in a religious based country, which I am not one of them, but if we live in a Christian world, and we saw Jesus feed a whole bunch of people with a little piece of bread, but you got a lot of his followers saying, nah, yo, it's my money, yo, I ain't trying to help. You know what I mean? What's up with that? You know what I mean? So, I
want my piece of fish.
Well, I mean, he fed a whole crew of people. And if that ain't socialism, I don't know what is. You know what I mean? Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J. Now, the international world is kind of weighing in on what's going on in Ferguson. You got, tear gas and police and riot gear. And it's not only prompting vigorous debates here in the United States, such as the president having an issue with his position on race policy. You have a lot of folks that think that he's being weak. They're also provoking an almost giddy reaction from countries within human rights offenses such as Russia, China, and Iran, which are often criticizing the U.S. for its double standards in protecting human rights. I'm getting this from Standard News. Quote, we're currently in Ferguson where tensions have been flying high ever since Saturday when 18-year-old Michael Brown was killed by multiple shots by police officers. That Hollywood-style report was from the Kremlin-backed TV network RT. RT has been characterizing the St. Louis protests as nationwide phenomenon, and RT is not alone. The protests are getting a primetime coverage spot on other Russian television networks as well, but it's not just the Russians. Media weighing in on Ferguson. China and Iran have used the opportunity to promote anti-American propaganda. China's state-run news agency published a biting commentary suggesting the U.S., quote, concentrate on solving its own problems rather than always pointing fingers at others, end quote. In Iran, it wasn't the destructive earthquake that injured hundreds that made top billing on the state-run agency's site Monday. Instead, it was the Ferguson protests that were front and center. The Twitter account, thought to be run by the office of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, also had a lot to say on the subject. One tweet called the United States, quote, the biggest violator of human rights, and it was hashtag human rights. An interesting stance to take on Twitter, considering Iran doesn't even allow its citizens to use social media site. Still, while it may be easy to dismiss the judgment coming from Iran, China, and Russia as hypocritical propaganda, how the U.S. is perceived abroad does have an impact and is relevant. Grizzy, I want you to jump in right there.
Right. Well, I mean, America has to live up to the words in the amendments that they put in the Constitution. Like the biggest hypocrite when it comes to this human rights thing is America in its past, and we can see it now in its present. The number one industrial world that has the biggest prison population, and most of those prisons are filled with brothers and sisters, is you would think Russia, you would think China, because they got 1 billion of Chinese somewhere in Asia. Nope, it's America. Why is that? Makes you want to. I mean, that's a question that people should ask themselves. Or using a better example of that, excuse me, is back in the civil rights era, America was trying to, how can I say, use sanctions against South Africa. And South Africa itself was doing their thing against the African National Congress and President Nelson Mandela locking them up for all those years. But yet and still, we didn't have the rights down here in Jim Crow South to vote, to sit at the lunch table, or any of those things. So America has to have that conversation. That's what I say. I mean, I know cops. I've talked to cops about this whole situation. Trust me, they on the opposite side of my point of view with this, because they'll come with, well, we didn't know, or the cop didn't know that the guy ain't have a gun. Cop didn't know this. The cop got to be out there. They out on the front lines every day. I get that, but here's my point: is the moment that society gets into your head and says, oh, he's more predisposed to do something, or you are already wired to think that way, you're more quicker to pull that trigger.
I'm gonna stop you there, Grizz. I want to get the Diva to jump in here. Diva,
sorry about that.
No, you good. And you hear the perspective of some of the other countries in the world, Iran, China, and Russia, seeing how they're reporting this. Diva, what's your thoughts when you hear this?
I absolutely agree with them. We are hypocrites here. You know, we say you're free and it's the land of, pursuit of happiness and all of that, but we're living the opposite of that lifestyle. You have the Walmart's 3% and you got the other 97% struggling to survive. You know what I'm saying? Like, we say one thing, but we live a totally different lifestyle here in America, and the international front is basically just mirroring that back to us. Right. And I think that needs to be done.
No, it's very interesting, because if you ever say anything against the country, then you get looked upon a certain kind of way. If you ever say anything against Israel, Lord knows you turn into an anti-Semite, when the reality is that land was there for a long time. The Palestinians lived there. It was called Palestine. Then after the war, they took the land from those people and they created the Israeli state. That's a fact. I don't know how you can state that in any other way than to state it as a fact, and you understand that the Palestinians and their supporters, the Islamic world, they still pissed off about it. You know what I mean? And so when you look at the presence of the United States and how we conduct ourselves in the world, You know, sometimes it does come across as quite hypocritical when you can go into other countries and you can tell them that this ain't the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to do it this way when you've got a 400-year history of doing dumb shit to people right here on your own
Who's
soil.
going to really respect you and what you have to say when you don't live by your word?
Well, you can respect the bully.
Can I speak on that a little bit?
You can respect a bully. You can respect a bully who is standing over you, telling you that you're going to respect me, whether you like it or not. You're going to respect the bully. And so, you know, it is what it is. Grizz, go ahead and jump in there, man.
No, what I wanted to say, and it's lost me just that quick. When you spoke about Israel and Palestine and how that conflict has been going on, one of the things we need to do as human beings, just as human beings, is we have to sit down and learn from each other, learn about one another. I mean, I go back to fear and ignorance is the worst and the biggest problem with the world. You know, just with the world, period. I can't say that anymore. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I can dig it, man. You know, it is what it is. The last thing that I want to get to in this particular segment before we move on, Grizz, I'm going to get your opinion on this, and then I'm going to let you go. So I'm going to have you speak first, and then I'm going to let you plug your show and then get on up out of here. But this one is about a woman. I'm getting this from ABC 13 News. It's about a woman and her children who got pulled over by police at gunpoint. Now, you asking me, why am I talking about a story that happened in Forney, Texas? You'll see why in a minute. But it's a dash cam video that shows a young mom being pulled over at gunpoint by police, all while her 4 little kids was in the car. Police admit they made a mistake. This is Kamitra Barber. Says she was driving her 4 children under the age of 10 home when she was suddenly stopped by police. Now, there's video here. I'm not going to play it, but I'm going to kind of try to paraphrase it as best that I can here. The officer says, "Driver, let me see your hands." Stick the hands out the window. And then, of course, Barber says, "What's wrong?" And he says, "Well, I'll tell you in a minute." Barber was told to exit the video with her hands above her head. And police then shackled them in cuffs in front of her children. Barber says, "What's wrong? I got kids here." The officer says, "How old are they?" And she says, "They're 6, 8, 10, and 9. You know, what's going on? What are we doing?" The officer says, "Hold on a second." And she's still saying, "What's going on? You know, you making my kids scared." And the officer says, "We got a complaint of a vehicle matching your description, your license plate, waving a gun out of the window." The traffic stop was in response to a 911 caller who told dispatch that 4 black men were waving a gun out the window of a beige or tan colored Toyota. The problem, Barbara's car is a burgundy red Nissan Maxima. It wasn't until Barbara's 6-year-old son, Ryan, came out of the car with his hands up too, and police realized they had made a mistake. First officer says, "Do they look too young to you?" And the other officer says, "They do to me." And the first officer says, "Huh?" The second officer says, "They do to me." And the first officer says, "Yep, they're young. Gun down, gun down." The officers then quickly went to work trying to calm down the now terrified children. Now, here's the point that I wanted to get to, and then I'm going to get your comment. Here's the point I'm going to get to, and I'm going to get your comment and let you go, Grizz. The officer says, "Y'all okay? Just y'all in the car?" And the child says, "No, I'm scared." The officer says, "It's okay." And the child says, "No, are we going to jail?" And the officer says, "No, no one's going to jail." And the child is screaming. And the officer says, "Hey, stop crying. It's okay, everything's fine now." The police department, by the way, defends the traffic stop, saying the officers responded appropriately to what they believe was a dangerous situation. For the nature of the call, that a weapon involved was, yes, quote, this is what Detective Clay with the Forney Police Department told the ABC affiliate. You can watch the full dash cam video by clicking. I've got it on my page. If you want to see it, it's there. I'll put it now on the Legacy Internet Radio fan page. So if you want to go there and see it, it's literally there right now. Just go ahead and click on it. You can watch the video for yourself. So Grizz, let me get your comment before I let you go.
Yeah, I saw the video too, man. It's heart-wrenching to see those babies running out of the car. It's traumatic. I mean, that's just a traumatic situation. And the cops, I don't know how he could see a red Maxima as opposed to, what was the description the dispatch gave?
A beige Toyota.
Yeah, beige and red. Don't they get an eye test to pass the police academy?
I guess not.
I guess not, because, I mean, that's just obvious. I mean, common sense, you know. I just I hope you hear the frustration in my voice because that's something that it's just not got a lot of feedback on it as well. So that's why I'm pausing. But that's it's upsetting, and I'm glad that nothing bad turned out of that situation, but that could have happened to any family that fit a beige or red Maxima riding throughout the country that look like the suspects. That's just crazy.
I can dig it. Ain't no hashtag on Marcus J. Tell the listeners who you are and where they can find you before we let you go, bro.
Oh man, I'm watching. First of all, Mark, I'm watching WWE with the Russian and the other chick.
Yeah, I bet you are. I got it on the DVR, so I'll watch it when I get home, man.
Hey, y'all make sure y'all check out the Green Room V2.0 with Jay Grizzy, a comedian that's Lissa P. Your Wednesdays, well, it'll be not a normal hump day for you. Y'all can hit me up on Facebook. That's JAY Grizzy, as well as the fan page at the Green Room V2.0 with Jay Grizzy, the comedian that's Lissa P. We there every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. right there at Legacy Internet Radio, where independence is the key to building your legacy. I appreciate you giving me some airtime, bro.
All right, man. I'll see you on Wednesday, man.
All right, peace.
You got it. Ain't no hashtag on Marcus J. Diva, get the last word on the segment. What's your thoughts? You got this lady who she gets pulled over, her kids in the car, all that crazy. What you think?
Well, when I was listening to Jay Grizzy, I agreed with him. That's a traumatic experience that those kids will never forget. They will grow up fearing the police and have to worry about, will it go past that? Will it be, a situation that we discussed tonight, with Mike Brown or any other, Trayvon Martin or whoever? They're going to grow up worrying about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, especially when, the part of the story where the kid asks, are we going to jail? That's the scary part. The kid straight up asks, are we going to jail? And that's got to be because of how they were being treated. And I think that it's unfortunate that, they pull this woman over. Obviously, they're wrong. They know they're wrong, but their superiors say, well, they didn't do nothing wrong. You know what I mean? And that to me is the bigger part.
They follow protocol, right?
I'm getting a hit, right. I'm getting a hit from my brother Sid, who's listening to us. What up, bro? Sid says that he lied and said a license plate was reported, which obviously it wasn't, because if it was, then he would have knew that he had the wrong car. You know what I mean? So that's what that is. Ain't no hashtag on Marcus J. We're going to take another break. And then when we come back, my co-host just walked into the building. So we are going to talk about ALS, Ice Bucket Challenges, Lou Gehrig's disease. I got the crew in the building, and I got you on the airways listening to us. Marcus J. Ain't no half step on Marcus J. Be back in a few minutes.